I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Today we're reading from the book of Joshua, chapter 18. Let's focus on verses 1 through 3. The entire Israelite community assembled at Shiloh, where it set up the tent of meeting there. The land had been subdued by them. 7 tribes among the Israelites were left who had not divided up their inheritance. So Joshua said to the Israelites, "How long will you delay going to take possession of the land that the Lord, the God of your fathers, gave you?" Now let's pause for a moment and consider all that has happened to Israel in such a short amount of time. Under Moses' leadership, they defeated major kingdoms east of the Jordan. Moses passed away, and Joshua led Israel across the Jordan, where they defeated all of the major kingdoms inside Canaan. And then Israel began to spread out across the land as individual tribes. And now, after all that the Lord had done in their midst, 7 tribes had still not taken possession of their allotted land. And Joshua decided to call a meeting of all Israel at Shiloh. And Shiloh was a land where the enemy had been completely driven out. So just the fact that they were there was proof that you can completely drive out the enemy. The tent of meeting was set up there, the tabernacle. It was the perfect setting in which to encourage the remaining 7 tribes, because it communicated a few things. Number 1, that God had destroyed the inhabitants of this land when we took courage and we fought, and so He'll do the same for you. It communicated, number 2, the direction that you receive today is from God, because here we are at His tent of meeting. Joshua's message was, in effect, God has led you this far. Why would He not enable you to finish well? What does that mean to us? Well, consider Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. Therefore, we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, who is the author and the finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before Him endured the cross, despising the shame, and He has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. You know, it's almost the same scenario that we find in the New Testament book of the Revelation, chapters 2 and 3. There's 7 churches, all of which started well, and yet every one of them lacks just a little something that keeps them from receiving the fullness of their blessing. Now here we see 7 tribes, 7 churches, each which are experiencing the Lord's deliverance, and yet they're struggling with the urge to settle for less, to not fight until the end. And this is a message that we can all identify with. Today, let's remember that all the Lord has done for us. And now, in contrast, consider where you've settled for less than God desires for you and requires of you. Because your enemies seek to deceive you by leading you to believe that they're too strong to overcome, or they're so weak that they could really hardly even be worth your time and effort to drive out. Nevertheless, the Lord has commanded us to completely destroy them. In the words of Joshua, how long will you delay in going out to take possession of all that the Lord has promised? I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. You know, Groundworks exists exclusively because of donations from people like you. And if you're being blessed by these podcasts, would you consider supporting Groundworks Ministries through your donation? Check us out at groundworksministries.com.